Gosh, it's been quite a week, huh? You recovered from your deposition?
Yes. I have. Have you ever been the person who's being deposed before?
No, I've
Okay.
taken lots of depositions. I've never given a
Yeah,
deposition.
it's quite the experience.
Yeah.
I just feel like even if someone's like, "Are you swearing under oath that you're drinking coffee right now?" I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to be caught in a lie. Like, so it's really stressful. Even like basic things.
Yeah.
Like they asked me where I went to school, and I was like, oh, I hope this is correct. And I obviously know that. It was stressful.
Yeah, it's an interesting experience, and it's very different being the person answering the questions instead of asking the questions, which is what I'm more used to. But I thought it was fun personally. But I don't get started. It's 9:30 a.m. So thanks to all of you for coming to the monthly member call. All of you obviously are the reason we're able to get through the weeks like the week we just got through, and frankly, the expert witness fees we had to pay, even kind of simple filing fees, all the things that go into this case, and that hopefully will make a dramatic difference for animals this Thanksgiving or because of our members. But let me just start out by saying again that there's obviously going to be some changes at DXC as these cases unfold. And this is a great week to start that change, because this is a week where, frankly, almost my entire week was wrapped up in a single case. But because of that, many of you know that my role is going to be shifting. But I'm super, super stoked for the first time to have the now lead organizer of the DXCSF area chapter and a member of the steering committee, Almira Tanner, here with me. So everyone give a big shout out to Almira, because she's brilliant, she's super organized, and she's been a leader for us, frankly, for the past 4 years. This is not a new thing for us. It's just a slightly different role that she'll be taking. But how are you feeling?
Yeah, it's so far nothing too dramatic has happened, so I feel okay. And obviously, like, most of the people on the leadership team are the same, and people have been very nice. And yeah, it was a little bit of a stressful week with the depositions, though. So I feel pretty good, but already I already feel like there's a little bit of a shift where I'm a lot more like wondering what everyone else is doing and making sure that people are doing, the work that they're intending to do, that they want to do to achieve our objectives. And it's now my responsibility to dive deeper into all the things that I typically don't do as much, like communications or community building. I'm more on the direct action and coaching other activists. So things are changing a little bit, and I want to make sure that I don't ever get resentful or, be a mean boss kind of thing. So, but yeah, it's been good.
I mean, imagine trying to manage a network with dozens of organizers locally, a few hundred around the world, and thousands of activists, and being responsible.
And 7 court cases coming up.
And 7 court cases. It's very stressful. And so, the great thing is we all believe in Almira, and she's really shown her ability to do a lot of things. And one of the things I said to Almira that I've been most impressed by over the past year is her, not just her leadership ability, but her willingness to grow and learn. So one of the things, I don't know if I can share what you did the other guys.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah.
One of the things Almira does that I've actually started doing too is every quarter we have these personal objectives we set out for ourselves as organizers and as leadership figures within DXC. And Almira always has some really good personal objectives that she goes out there and she actually surveys the rest of our leadership team to see how she's doing in communication, leadership, mentorship, support, these sorts of things. And I thought that was such a great idea, and showed kind of your willingness to take feedback and learn from the folks around you about how to get better. And I think you've actually progressed in a lot of ways as a result. I mean, what do you think we mostly learn collectively over the next couple of years, or what do you think you're going to be focused on as a leader in your personal development and in kind of the changes you want to make for DXC?
Well, I feel yeah, that is a really big question, but I feel really excited about the right to rescue. And I feel like some of the criticisms that sometimes people have given to DXC is that it feels like we're a little all over the place. Like we have these guiding principles, and we always are focusing on achieving animal liberation and helping animals and helping the planet. But it's like we're doing this and then we're doing that, and now I feel like everything is coming together. Like all of these cases have this similar theme where activists are being prosecuted for rescuing animals. And if we can win this case, it's like a really clear marker that animals are not property. You know, maybe it's not necessarily like now written in the law like that, but if you can not be convicted of a crime for stealing, you know, because you're rescuing an animal, it's a pretty good indicator that animals are not property. So I feel like now all the things that we're doing are really converging in this strategy, and I want to maybe like update or refocus a little bit on the roadmap. I know people have like said that when they joined DXC, they read the roadmap to liberation and it was so inspiring to them because for the first time they felt like, holy crap, we can do this. And maybe try to get the right to rescue in there and refocus our efforts on explaining to people this like strategic vision, like where we're going. That's easier said than done. And one thing that's a little scary is some parts of the court cases are not in our control because, you know, it's a judge or a jury. But that's why I'm really excited that Wayne is, even though, you know, he might not be lead organizer anymore, it's not like he's leaving the leadership team to focus on giving us the best shot at winning these trials. And that's, I think, so important. And I've been reading a lot about the importance of these court cases and the importance of having these legal victories, and even the importance of having them even if you lose and how you can reframe them. So I just think it's an exciting time. And I also think that the right to rescue is something that the majority of the public can get behind. Even if they haven't really thought through, you know, total animal liberation yet, rescuing animals when they're sick, people are in support of that. So
yeah. In many ways, I think we've seen rescue as sort of the canonical act of animal liberation. It literally is the embodiment of liberating an animal from a situation of captivity. And the idea that we're going to be able to argue for that in a court of law with the media, with the judge, with the entire political system watching us. And we've seen so much progress on that front where
it's been a really good last 2 weeks.
It's been an amazing last 2 weeks. So some of the things that have happened, we'll dive a little more into the Diestel case and what happened this week in just a moment. But all the other things that have been happening this week have been amazing too. So the Peace and Justice Commission of the Berkeley City Council is presenting a resolution in defense of the right to rescue.
On Monday.
John Frohmeyer had a conversation with a member of the Board of Supervisors who's been an ally of ours, Matt Haney, and he's scheduling a conversation in person with him as well to try and schedule and convince him to commit to passing a resolution in San Francisco. And frankly, they're just markers across the nation, across the world, that this is the time for the animal rights movement to really push forward. With the fur ban on the brink of being passed, even with kind of all the vegan meat substitutes that keep blowing up, and you're getting more announcements every week. I think this month we had Subway announcing a vegan meatball sub as well, and all the different fast food restaurants are coming around.
Okay.
So there's
KFC,
as silly as it was, the one-day thing. And it shows you something when even these big, huge animal abusing companies like Smithfield are now announcing, oh, we need to offer a plant-based substitute. Now, granted, in the history of social justice, the oppressive institutions usually are not the ones that are going to be leading the change. They're the ones that are going to be dragged, kicking, screaming to the vision of the better world that we all have. But when you see these incredibly powerful institutions, political institutions, corporate institutions, forced to address the issue for the first time, that's when you know changes on the horizon. So, well, why don't we talk a little bit about what happened this week? Because I know folks are very curious, and I was curious about how this is going to unfold when we went into this case. And this is going to be probably our first trial. It's scheduled for mid-October.
Which is a really, really good time for us to be suing a turkey farm, and a really, really bad time for a turkey farm to be sued because it's going to go right before Thanksgiving, which is just really good for us.
Yeah, and so for those of you who don't know much about the background of this case, but this was in many ways kind of coming back to DXC's beginnings for me, and probably for you too, because you probably had to think about how things were back in 2015 when we were just releasing our first open rescue.
I mean, honestly, the lawyer asked me, did I know that I was going to a Diestel farm when I did this investigation? And I don't know. Like, I don't even remember. I'm pretty sure that Wayne probably took away my cell phone. He probably didn't trust me enough to like not think I was maybe going to tell someone what we're doing. So I don't think I knew what I was doing.
Yeah,
but that put a lot of trust in you then, I guess.
We can talk about this openly now because the statute of limitations is passed. Obviously, we have legal defenses in the case, but it's still not guaranteed that a prosecutor is not going to come after you, as you've seen in Sonoma County. But yeah, in these early projects, one of the things that we always try to do is just bring new people out. And I did trust you, actually. You were one of the few people I trusted.
But we do that for everyone.
We'd bring new people out who are promising. And Elmira, actually, you were traveling into town from Vancouver in preparation, I think, for the second DXC Forum. Is that right?
Yeah, again,
it was DXC Forum too.
It was, I mean, I don't remember if this is before or after. So many questions in this deposition. I was like, do you remember what you did in May of 2015? Like, I don't.
Yeah. But it was, this is in the early days of DXC's Open Rescue, we didn't have nearly as advanced camera equipment because we didn't have any supporters like you. So we had these crappy cameras. I was using a point and shoot Canon camera a lot, which did just awful in low light. We didn't have all the extremely advanced and fancy biosecurity gear we have, night vision goggles, all this gear that keeps us safe. But we did have an incredibly committed crew of people. And when I brought Elmira out on a training mission, I was all excited and stoked to bring Elmira. I brought some other people out in the past too. And I had briefed you and kind of vetted you. I think I had talked to your parents and met them, made sure you're a real person. And we get to the turkey ranch, and there are literally no turkeys there at all. It was completely clean, and we had spent so much time preparing, and that was kind of a good lesson. And no matter what you do to prepare, sometimes you just have terrible luck. But something kind of amazing happened that night too, which is, there was not a single living turkey there for the first hour and a half we were there, because what happens in turkey farms is every 2 to 3 months, they obviously send the animals to slaughter. And there'll be a week or two where they just clean the entire facility. And so the facility was cleaned out. But something happened that night that really shouldn't have. And I told you all before we're going out, we're not saving a turkey today. It's not going to happen. And, the team lead always briefs people and tries to prepare people for the emotional devastation potentially of having to leave some animals behind. But that day we weren't necessarily planning on rescuing a turkey. And lo and behold, we ended up rescuing one. And it was because we had one who had escaped the slaughterhouse and escaped the slaughter process and was apparently quite ill, possibly starving to death. We weren't entirely sure because she wasn't moving properly, but she was running around basically in the outskirts of the farm. And we just didn't know what to do. And we decided, let's just take it. And, the reason I think we weren't prepared to rescue anyone because it was supposed to be a training mission only, but we did actually already have places lined up. And I don't remember what your reaction was when we showed up. Did we tell you ahead of time when we?
I think you walked into the car.
Walking in the car.
Because at this point, myself and someone else were in the car after we had come back, realizing all the barns were empty.
Yeah.
And then I think you were like, I'm just gonna go, check out the other side because this farm spans both sides of a road. And then that was the first time where I was like, we always say we're not gonna rescue someone, and we end up doing it. But I think you let us know. That you were coming back with someone.
But if I'm recalling correctly, you should correct me if I'm wrong about this. There are two incredibly disturbing things about seeing that turkey outside. One is, in months and months in surveillance, both before that day and after that, that was the first living turkey we ever saw outside. Despite the fact this farm was aggressively marketed as giving the birds enhanced outdoor access and free range. And the other really disturbing thing is, I don't know if you remember this, but I'm pretty sure the reason we ended up checking that side of the road out is we had actually heard earlier that night the turkeys being loaded. And there was screaming.
You know what's weird? So I hope I'm not violating whatever. So, but anyway, so in preparation of the deposition, I was the person who had to gather a lot of documents and stuff. And so I watched a video of myself saying that in the car, describing that I'd heard birds screaming. But now I can't remember that at all. But I'm assuming that my memory of that night is a lot better when I actually said it that night. So we must have heard these birds screaming, and I remember seeing footage of the other side of the facility that you went to, and there were dead turkey bodies on the ground. And typically if they had been, loaded up a couple days before, they would have cleaned out the barns and gotten ready for the next cycle. So I think that honestly, she was going to be loaded onto a slaughter truck a couple hours earlier. Because typically in an open rescue, when you get to the facility, you don't just hop out of the car and go. You wait for a while to make sure that there's nothing weird going on. So that could have been happening while we were waiting. But it's weird that I can't remember now. But.
Yeah, and then I think we ended up naming her, what was it?
No.
Perdita, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember what that Greek mythology character is, but something.
Yeah, it's the character from Greek mythology who comes back from the land of the dead.
Oh, wow.
And it was really powerful for me. Honestly, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. Just seeing all those dead bodies and hearing all these birds screaming, because what happens when they're taking the birds into transit is any of the ones that are weak, they just snap their necks on the spot. And a lot of times they're not even dead. They have their broken necks and they're just writhing in agony on the ground after they've been thrown to the side. And no one ever gets out of that situation alive. Even if they're not killed on the spot, within 48 hours, they're going to go to a massive industrial slaughterhouse and be brutalized, because many of you know poultry have no protections under federal law, and apparently the state of California doesn't care about enforcing the animal cruelty laws here either. So many of them end up being eviscerated alive, and this is just routine in the industry. And none of them ever make it out alive, except this one, that she was going to be thrown in a transit truck and slaughtered. Instead, from what I understand, I think she's still alive today.
Yeah.
4 years later.
One of the kind of unfortunate things about doing open rescue is often, not always, but sometimes we don't get to follow up with the animals that we've rescued because they're in a safe place that's really confidential, because while we want to be open and we're willing to do that, we don't want to risk the freedom of the actual animals. So sometimes you don't know, but I do think you've talked to where she is fairly recently, right?
I think in the last 6 months I have.
That's so amazing, because from what I know, turkeys who are raised commercially now, they do not typically do well, because their bodies have been manipulated so much that they're kind of similar to the chickens that people raise and then people eat. They just are not bred anymore to live more than 6 months. I mean, and for chickens, 6 weeks?
Yeah.
So the fact that she's alive is really, really incredible. And so lucky that we went that night and that you went to that side of a lot of luck and fate, I guess, if you believe in fate. But
yeah, one of the shocking statistics, and this isn't Animal Rights propaganda, this is the industry's own figures, is that the commercial turkey industry has a mortality rate around 10%. And the two most common causes of death for the adult turkeys, the babies die of different things, usually from respiratory disease or starvation. For adults, the two most common causes of death are cardiac arrest, because their bodies just get so big and their little hearts can't pump enough blood to get through their bodies, even though they're juveniles. I mean, they're not really adults. They're just 12, 13, 14 weeks old. And the second is joint and leg issues, musculoskeletal problems, where they just collapse on the ground and slowly die of starvation. And we saw many birds like that, just kind of dragging themselves around on the ground, attempting to reach some food and water, but usually being trampled, and sometimes to death, as they desperately try to survive in this horrible environment. And that's why we do this work, because these companies are lying to the public. It's pretty blatant in this regard. I think the astonishing thing about Diestel is, while they're saying to the public, on the one hand, we raise these animals humanely and we have this beautiful Sonora ranch where the animals are treated like pets, they were saying to the government the exact opposite, because they're being investigated for environmental pollution at the same time. And that was one of the things all of you helped us expose. Many of you I know were our supporters even back in 2015, and all of you are continuing to support us now, but we were able to spend that time. I mean, I spent hundreds and hundreds of hours just doing research, finding these things, and because of that, we were in the Wall Street Journal, which is the top business publication in the world. We're in the Washington Post, one of the top 3 news publications in the world, and we had dozens of publications. This article went incredibly viral and really shook the nation's understanding of so-called humane meat in Thanksgiving in 2015. And I think it was an amazing rescue and investigation that, at the end of the day, came back down to the idea that each of these individual animals, when we peel back that curtain and see what's happening in factory farms, everyone, or frankly any type of animal, everyone understand that each of these individual animals deserves a life of compassion. But let's fast forward now to the legal case. And we've got the legal case is finally unfolding. And for those of you who don't know what depositions are these legal proceedings that happen. They're sort of like a pre-trial. They're kind of a test run at what the trial is going to be like. They're an opportunity for both sides' lawyers to interrogate some of the witnesses under oath, catch them in any falsehoods, if they can catch them in any falsehoods, establish their credibility, and undermine their case to the extent they can. And I talked to our lawyers yesterday after talking to, I think it's 6, 7 DXC witnesses. Our lawyers feel so good, including Kitty, who just walked into the room. Our lawyers feel so good about this case. And one of the things that Gretchen told me yesterday, which I thought was just so powerful, is they thought they were going to come in here and grill us and find some inconsistencies. Instead, what they did is they kind of proved our case for us. They proved our case for us because it was really funny. First of all, these lawyers, I don't know how they work for you, but they're huge jerks. Like it's just,
yeah, he's like,
they're really
my
mean.
lawyer, Sonia Mehta, who's just like so sweet. She's this like activist lawyer, usually works on like labor stuff, like such a nice person. And they're so mean to her. And they said that this is like a thing that they do where they try to like make you not like your lawyer.
Yeah.
Like, you're really not going to answer that. Your lawyer's going to tell you not to answer that. You're just not going to do it. And I was like, yeah, like Sonia's my friend.
Yeah.
But oh yeah, I just feel bad for them.
Yeah. But they just kind of dig into anything they think might be a vulnerability or a weakness. But some of the questions, I don't know if they ask you these sorts of questions, and I can talk about this openly now, but I won't talk about all the details. But unlike the D-Stills, we're not trying to hide everything we said in these depositions. The D-Stills said, nothing we said in this deposition can be shared with anyone in the world. And I went on Facebook Live right after my deposition and talked about what I was saying.
I went before. I was too tired after.
But one of the things they kept asking me, they kept trying to find out if we fabricated anything in the investigation. I think they really, I know, it's like, I don't think we have a lot of support and donors, but we don't have billionaires like Jeff Bezos paying us hundreds of millions of dollars to make a Hollywood video out of these investigations. But they literally were showing me different video clips and saying, did this actually happen? Was that bird placed by you? You know, when we showed like a bird who's injured or sick, they'd say, did you place that bird? Did you place these chemicals? And we're showing them footage of drugs like Mucosal. Mucosal is this expectorant that is, it's like Robitussin or Mucinex that apparently 4-year-old kids are not supposed to eat this stuff because it's potentially dangerous to them. And they were giving this stuff to all these turkeys who were dying and sick from respiratory distress. And they would ask questions like, did you place this Mucinex there? I was like, no.
How would you even get a hold of
no, I didn't get like hundreds of cases of respiratory drugs and place them in your so-called humane, chemical-free turkey. And I think by the end of the deposition, my sense is the attorneys on the other side were feeling kind of defeated. Did you get that sense?
Well, so I don't know what they knew about me going in, but I think really early on they realized I wasn't even living in the United States when this investigation happened. And so they were like, he was just like, so 2020, what? Like, where were you living in 2015? And I was like, I was living in Canada. Like, I was working as an occupational therapist. I had to define what occupational therapy was.
That's right. He asked you a lot about
Asked me all about my education, asked me if my degrees helped me understand injured animals. I was like, no, but I'm also not claiming to be a veterinary expert. But anyway, so he honestly I was only deposed for 4 hours. And I think he only spent 25 minutes on the actual investigation because I think they don't have anything, what are they going to ask? Yeah. Were the animals mistreated? Yes. I don't know how many more times people can say that. And then he just grilled me a lot on our structure and all of the different entities and all these things, these legalese terms where I was like, I'm not, not like a nonprofit lawyer, not to mention that what our structure is now is so different than it was in 2015. So it was very odd and it was not what I was expecting. But I think part of that was because I was last. So I was the last person to be deposed. They'd already talked to Wayne and Priya, who I think are
Kitty and Stammer.
Yeah, I think you and Priya probably had the most direct knowledge of what was going on inside the facilities because they asked me, so when you went to the farm, did you see animals? What were the conditions of the animals? And I was like, I told you there were no animals. The barns were empty. And he was like, oh, yeah, damn. So anyway, there wasn't too much to say, but I do think they were trying to catch you in a lie because I was the person who verified our responses. So what happens is D-Still sends you all these questions. Who went on the farm? When did you go on the farm? Blah, 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 blah. And then one person from our team has to sign and say, we believe this is accurate. And I was that person. Honestly, probably because I'm fairly thorough and organized, not because I had the most knowledge of that case. And they asked me, why were you chosen? And I was like, I could speculate that that's why I was chosen. Yeah. And
that is why you were chosen.
And they're like, is that your signature? And I was like, yes. They're like, did you sign this document? I was like, are you tricking me? Is there one word that's missed and it's different? And he's like, no. I was like, okay, yeah. I don't know, all of these things. And
it's kind of weird.
We left someone off the list, but it wasn't intentional. Yeah. And our dates were off because, frankly, most investigations span 2 days.
Yeah.
you're starting probably before midnight and you're ending after. So like when, I don't know, it's confusing. And it was also over 4 years ago. But
Yeah.
I think the actual, like, those are all these little technicalities that don't matter, that don't actually have anything to do with the fact that when you go look, when this call's over, go to the DSTL website, see how offensive that is, and then look at the Deadly Feast video. Like, that's why we're here. And so.
Yeah, and if you want to find it yourself, just go to deadlyfeast.com, I think it is, or just search on Google Deadly Feast DXE, and it should come up. It'll be the first result. But the beauty of all of this is this case will be the first case that puts our theory of change into action, in the sense that we knew we wanted to make animal rights a political question. There's something incredibly powerful. I've been a lawyer for a long time now, and I've seen this happen so many times, but there's something incredibly powerful about just having to swear that you're going to be speaking the truth. You see this in all the cop shows or courtroom dramas.
Yeah, you really do have to do it. It's not on a Bible.
Raise your hand, and you have to say, I do, that I swear under penalty of perjury that everything I say is going to be true. And all this is going to become, in a deposition, this isn't true yet, but in a trial, everything will become a public record.
Yeah.
And very powerful political institutions will be addressing the truthfulness of our conduct and theirs. And that there's something in that gauntlet and that challenge of the legal system, scrutinizing our claims and theirs, that I think will be incredibly powerful for the animals, especially around Thanksgiving. But one of the key things about these cases for us is it's not just about winning legal victory for us. In fact, in many ways, the legal cases are just a fulcrum through which we want to push a bigger movement. Right? We want these legal cases, just like with the women's suffrage movement, when Susan B. Anthony was arrested for voting, or when the civil rights activists were arrested for trying to register voters in the South, or for sitting in segregated lunch counters, or when gay rights activists were arrested protesting the NIH for refusing to give them the medical care they deserve just because they were LGBTQ. There's something incredibly powerful about these cases that then motivates the public to realize, I have to take a stand, right? When there is literally a courtroom case unfolding, when people are threatened with personal destruction, because if we lose this lawsuit, they're suing me, they're suing DXE, they could try to destroy us. They've got incredibly powerful lawyers. They're funded by literally the richest man in the world. Yep. Amazon, Jeff Bezos, and his company are behind this lawsuit, versus a ragtag team of grassroots activists who get paid nothing, sleep on couches.
Hey, we got paid $40 to be deposed.
Actually, I didn't get paid. You all got paid.
Why didn't you get it?
Because I'm a named party in a lawsuit, so I have to show up. I was
pretty excited when the mean lawyer gave me $40. I was like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah, the lawyers are billing. I'm sure the Whole Foods lawyers are billing like $800 an hour. So they're making a fortune off this. And that's one thing that makes me happy, that Jeff Bezos and John Mackey are wasting their money on these lawyers. But this is a battle. These courtroom dramas will you can't even exaggerate it. It really is this David versus Goliath battle.
Yeah.
And the irony of it all is Goliath is terrified. Like, we are all so loose. One of the things I remember Gretchen was telling us. Gretchen's our lawyer. She was saying, oh, I just want to let you know, these lawyers are going to intimidate you by having a video camera in the room for depositions. And we're all like, all right, we don't care.
Our lives
we are totally fine.
They didn't have a video camera for me, though.
They didn't. They ended up not doing it because I think they realized quickly that we don't care.
Yeah.
So it wasn't going to be intimidating. I thought, they're going to scare us by videotaping us and make us swear under oath. And it's like, we have absolutely nothing to hide.
Yeah.
Everything we did is completely transparent. You can ask us about everything from the equipment we use, the way we raise funds, everything. Everything we are completely fine with being 100% transparent about, even with our adversaries. And when people see this evil, massive corporation who tortures animals, lies to the public, trying to crush these little people relative to Amazon or Whole Foods and DSTL, I think that story is going to be irresistible for the public this Thanksgiving. And the great thing is, even if we lose, the way we've structured DXE, all the significant funds in DXE are insulated from the actual litigation. So they can try and bankrupt me, but I don't have any money left. The DXE SF area chapter, which is the entity that did this investigation, doesn't even have a bank account or any funds. So they can't actually win anything. The worst thing they could do is potentially hold us in contempt of court for not paying any damages to them. And there's no debtor's prison. So this case is a good case for us. If we win, not only does the public see the truth about what's happening, but they potentially have to pay maybe even millions of dollars to animal rights groups in restitution for all the wrong they've committed against animals.
and correct their advertising. And if we lose, we don't lose much.
Yeah,
So,
one really funny, or not funny, but telling thing was, so my deposition was a little delayed because BART shut down and my lawyer was stuck on BART. So I was just waiting in this deposition room. And like Wayne said, the lawyers that are representing D-Stall are also the same lawyers who represent Whole Foods, where they're suing us for disrupting their stores, which is owned by Amazon. So these are some pretty intense lawyers who make a lot of money off of animal exploitation. And their whole office was talking about the truck that had crashed near Berkeley. There was a really horrible incident 2 days ago where a truck that was transporting chickens to a slaughterhouse crashed into a barrier and caught on fire, and a lot of the chickens burned. We were actually able to save Eva Hamer, if you know her. She's an activist here in leadership, and she was able to go and save one of the chickens. So that was awesome. Also, this truck was from a farm that supplies Whole Foods. But anyway, their whole staff was just talking about how horrible it was. I'm like, even your staff thinks that animals deserve protection. And I was like, I don't even know if they know all the details of what's going on, but I felt pretty good when, the receptionist and the court reporter, I could tell that they cared about animals. So their own office, I think, is seeing the light and probably wishes that they were on the other side of that deposition. So.
Yeah. You got Brian Blackman, right?
Yes.
Brian Blackman, this is a hardcore corporate defense attorney who normally has no conscience. I mean, he represents all these big corporations going after families and pension funds, little people who owe big corporations money. And even Brian Blackman, when I was describing, the conditions we found some of the little babies in, and the fact that we saw in some cases 7% of the babies dying in a single week, and they're collapsed on the ground in respiratory distress, just desperately trying to get up, but they can't because they can't even breathe. And there was a moment where I saw this look of pain across his face when we were watching video footage, and I was describing what he was seeing. And the court reporter actually started tearing up at the same time period during my deposition. And, I could see Brian was like, oh my God, what am I doing here? And there was a moment where I thought, even this guy who's getting paid so much, who spent his entire life defending big companies, there's this conscience that's crossing his face, this compassion, this feeling, which is why, I know I joke around and I make fun of Brian Blackman on live stream, and I say we're going to fight it out, and they are trying to destroy us. I mean, they countersued us personally and have made all sorts of somewhat menacing threats against us and against me personally. I really have faith that even these people who are defending the industry now, when they are forced to confront the truth, they will change. I think that's going to happen. And I think that will happen in some of these cases. Anyways, we're past 30 minutes now, and normally we go for about 30 minutes, but we always love taking some questions from all of you. So if any of you have any questions, maybe Sahar, you can open things up. You can type them into the chat. You should see a button that says chat on the bottom of your screen. You might have to mouse over the bottom of your screen to find the chat dialog box. We'll watch the chat box. But Sahar, maybe you can kind of unmute folks as well and just let them ask questions audibly.
But Karen was asking if this is a court trial and when is the date. So yes, there's kind of two things that are going on with the D-Stall case. One is the consumer fraud, aspect, and then there's they're suing us for, I think, trespass and conversion, which is stealing. They did ask me if I thought we had stolen the turkeys and if I understood what theft meant, and I was able to say on the record that I don't think animals are property. So I was like, yes. But yeah. So not the trespass part, but the consumer fraud part is currently scheduled for October. I'm pretty sure it's 11th, but it is really soon, just over maybe 5 weeks away. Yeah. And we will definitely be, if you're in the Bay Area, definitely be mobilizing people to go to that and show up in your blue shirts if that's something that we can do, just to show the support. And then the trespass and conversion part of that would be in 2020. It was currently scheduled for January of 2020, but now because we have so many trials, it's been conflicted with a different trial, and the other trial took precedence, so that will be sometime in 2020.
And those are the claims that D-Stall's bringing against us.
Yes.
They're suing us for what is effectively the civil form of a theft claim.
Yeah.
Conversion is a way that lawyers talk about theft when it's not a criminal proceeding but a civil proceeding, and they're seeking compensation. They're claiming they had to install these precautions, security precautions. I don't think I even told you about this. One of the weird things that came out in the context of these depositions is the De-Stole Turkey Ranch folks are heavily involved in right-wing militias.
Yeah.
Did you hear about this?
No,
the
state
state
of Jefferson. I
Yeah.
didn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
But
it's like this movement to secede from California, essentially, because there's all these right-wing folks. Yeah, they're sick of how liberal California is, and so you may have heard about the Bundys in Oregon, who are like fighting the federal government, have all these guns in each one of these armed compounds. But they're hiring these kind of folks from the state of Jefferson to defend their turkey ranch from animal rights activists, and they want us to pay for that. So, but again, I don't even have any money to pay for it, so it doesn't matter. I'm trying to see what questions we have.
Hello.
Hi. Go
Hi.
ahead.
This is Paula Lustenberg from Belgium.
Hi,
First
Paul.
of all, congratulations, Almira, because I really like your style, and I love when you go running and incentivize other people to do sports also while doing activism. So really great. And Wayne, always my heart is with you. So for both of you. But I have a question about actually the lawsuits. And my question would be like, is it possible, even if now with so many lawsuits coming is maybe not the right time, but actually us making a lawsuit towards these companies for deceiving the public, and maybe raising money from all over the world, so we all feel like we are part of this to basically do what we can. Maybe we have a lot of support all over the world for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually that's basically what happened in this De-Stole case. Like we brought the case against them first. So we sued them for consumer fraud, and then they came back and sued us for trespass. So I think that's like, but all of the other cases are more like what you're describing. They're just suing or, bringing charges against us. But I think that if we win this De-Stole case, that might really open the floodgates for a lot of other animal rights groups or more lawsuits from DXE to these companies, So if we can prove like, look, we can do this, then maybe that will encourage a lot of other people to do it. And I think that would be really great. So that is a good suggestion.
And PETA has tried a lawsuit like this and didn't succeed. Friends of the Earth tried a lawsuit like this against Sanderson and so far has not succeeded. This is the first case of its sort that I understand, in my recollection, and I've been following this stuff for almost 20 years now, that is going to get to trial. So we're very, very close to what will be a historic trial, putting the industry on the defense and asking them, what are you saying that's actually true?
I learned it's actually really hard to bring a lawsuit because one of their claims is that DXE SF area, the group that did the investigation, wasn't harmed because we didn't buy De-Stole turkey, and therefore like we didn't get deceived ourselves. So you have to like make sure that you have what they call standing, like to actually bring this, that you were harmed personally or as an organization by this company's marketing, which I mean, maybe I don't know if that's totally the legal term, but it is a little strange that if you can't prove that you yourself were harmed, you can't do it. So. Yeah,
that's right. And one of the toughest things about the legal system is the animals are still invisible to law.
Yeah,
what we'd really like to do.
The fact that the turkeys were harmed doesn't matter.
Yeah, what we'd really like to do is bring a case on behalf of the turkeys, and what you have to do is creative lawyers exploit kind of various mechanisms within the legal system to bring a case as if it were on behalf of the animals. And so, our thinking is this false advertising consumer fraud lawsuit is a way to do that. Because ultimately, the biggest fraud that's being perpetrated on the public, of course, is the moral fraud that animals are just things. They're not things for corporations to use. They're living creatures to be protected. So I'm seeing some other questions. Emek is asking, can you play dogs like Earthling or Dominion as evidence at court? We can almost certainly play our video footage. Yeah. And it was played at the deposition. They played our video footage at the deposition. It'll be harder to bring in other video footage that's not relevant to the direct claims in this case. But that will be part of our communication strategy and our trial strategy. Just show people exactly what's happening. Linda Kutch is asking, how did the cookies go over? Dog Team Cookie. So many of you know, it's actually funny.
I don't think I told you this. I got in a little trouble because of the cookie thing.
Really?
Oh, a
You were,
little
like,
bit.
trying to bribe them or something?
No. So many of you probably heard I brought cookies to the attorneys. I actually brought all sorts of desserts and treats to the opposing counsel. Every day I was bringing them treats.
'Cause
And
you
their
have to go
staff
3
members.
days, right?
Yeah, I was there 3 days. They pulled me in a third day because
Yeah.
they said 2 days is not enough. And so they said, you've got to come in another day or we're going to postpone the trial. And so my attorneys were like, no, just
Yeah.
please, can you come in because we
Yeah.
want to finish this. But this is something for all of you to remember. Someone on Facebook Live joked about poisoning the cookies.
Oh, shoot. Yeah.
And it actually came up in the depositions.
So they were watching the live stream.
Yeah, they were watching the live streams and saying, so we heard you're thinking about poisoning the cookies. You say you're a nonviolent group. Why would you poison cookies?
Wow.
And so we were put on the hook for that. And it's just a reminder to all of us, we really shouldn't even be joking about violence. I know, even when you're playing Monopoly, you might say like, I'm going to kill you, It's one thing if you want to,
Monopoly,
I don't know, I'm going to bankrupt you. You're not literally going to bankrupt someone you play Monopoly. It's a fake game. You're not actually trying to take your friend's money. But it's a good reminder, all of us, that in our public-facing actions, we really need to show a tremendous amount of compassion, even avoid jokes about violence. And I know the person who's commenting on Facebook Live, because I referenced it, I said, hey, come on now. We don't joke about those sorts of things. But it actually came up that, are you a violent group? Because we heard someone was trying to poison these cookies. And I mean, they didn't even eat any of the cookies. I ate them. Maybe that's why they didn't, because they thought I had poisoned them based on a comment on Facebook Live. But it's just something to keep in mind. But the cookies went well for the court reporter and the staff. The secretary did eat some of the cookies.
Yeah, she's
The lawyers
really
did.
nice. She was like,
Michelle
"Can I
was
get
great.
coffee and like
Michelle was
sparkling
great.
water?"
Okay, you want to take this one?
Yeah,
Sam
so
Pons?
Sam says, Sam and Michelle, they're new and they're interested in getting involved with Open Rescue in France, but as an American citizen. So I think, generally speaking, it is unadvisable to do Open Rescue in a place where you are not a citizen. I'm not a citizen. And I think that probably some of the things that I have done, I probably should not have done, and is making my legal cases a little bit more complicated. Obviously, like, take the risks that you want to take. It's a little different, like, if you're in France and you don't ever care about ever going back to France, then if you get arrested in France, for example, then they'll probably, unless it's something like very violent, which would not encourage you to do at all, most likely just ask you to not come back to their country. So that's something, I know that is really frustrating to hear, because I was really annoyed when I'm not able to participate in the things that I want to participate in just because of my immigration status, but that's a fact of life. That being said, if you are interested, the first thing that I would recommend doing is finding a really solid community, because when, like, this deposition would have been a lot more stressful if I didn't trust Wayne and Kitty and Sammer and Priya. Like, I trust them. They're not going to say, oh, it was all Mira. And she even said
She's the lead
that, she was going to poison the cookies. Like, like those sorts of things. Like, there has to be a lot of trust in the community, and that's not going to build itself over a couple weeks. Yeah. So you really need to do all these things, and little actions, outreach events, protests are great ways to build trust. So that would be the first thing I would recommend, is find a solid community and then do some training. We offer trainings at the Animal Liberation Conference, or other people do trainings. I know that there might be some trainings at this thing in Luxembourg that's happening in a couple days. If you're in Europe, it's like the Animal Liberation Training Camp that's being put on by some DXE organizers in Europe. So, but first things first, don't do risky actions with people that you don't know.
Yeah, and this is not hypothetical, because in the Smithfield case, they actually made Paul an offer. They said, you're not going to get any jail time, just turn on Wayne.
Yeah.
Testify against him and you're good. And Paul turned it down.
Yeah.
Much to his credit. Like, this is a scary case, folks.
Yeah.
4 class 2 felonies, which is just below first-degree murder. So it's like, if you commit second-degree murder, that's the felony that Paul is facing. And he was going to get out of it with no jail time at all. And I think not even pleading to a felony. I think he had initially pleaded advance to a felony. He's going to get dropped to a misdemeanor. And that's the amount of trust I had in Paul, that, one of the great things about our case is, even if he had turned on me, it would have been that bad. Not that I thought Paul would ever turn on me, because I'm going to testify openly myself. But they can still say things to make you look bad. They can say these are not honest people. They can say their intentions are not good. They're trying to make money off of this. And they're going to pressure you to do that. And one of the things that did come up in my deposition that showed just how insidious these corporations are, I don't know if they asked you a lot, but they asked me and a couple other people about sexual harassment.
DXC.
They didn't.
And that's absolutely nothing to do with Diesel Turkey Ranch, absolutely nothing to do with animal rights. But they'll find anything about you they can try and hurt you on, and they'll dig.
Yeah.
They'll dig deep and twist the knife and try and hurt you. And the great thing is, in everything we do, we're transparent. So I think he thought, like, when he asked that question, he was going to scare me and intimidate me. And I was like, this is great. I love, I don't like talking about sexual harassment in the sense that it's an awful thing and it should never happen. But I do genuinely believe in the approach we've taken to sexual harassment. And I think we've made mistakes, but I think the people who've done this work for us have had the best of intentions. We've learned, and we've done better than, frankly, any organization I've ever been part of, and addressing issues like that immediately. But this sort of stuff happens. And if you don't have that trust, if they whisper into someone else's ear, I heard,
Yeah.
did you know that the people you're working with are sexual harassers, or they're racist, or something like that? And they present some document in front of you that you've never read before. That can be scary unless you've got a lot of trust in each other.
They tried to I think he got really excited because for some reason we were talking about how I receive a fellowship from another 501c3 called Friends of DXC. And that is an entity that a lot of you are donating to, so thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, one year I got a smaller amount of a fellowship because I had received a gift from someone that helped me support my work. And he was like, was that gift from Wayne Chung? And I was like, no. And he was like, oh, damn it. Like, I don't know I don't think it would have mattered. Like, if Wayne gave me money and I didn't need to have other forms of buying groceries and paying my rent, but it wasn't Wayne, and he got really disappointed and asking me why I quit my master's program, which I quit. I think he probably was like, oh, maybe it's because she was an alcoholic and dropped out or something. But I was like, I quit because I didn't want to do testing on animals. And I think he was like, oh, that's a good reason to quit. So they were really trying to find like anything that maybe wasn't super.
Yeah, they were asking me questions about how much money have you made from DXC, and I was like, I've lost like a few $100,000.
Yeah. Minus a lot.
It's just like, they're like, oh, okay, I guess we're not going anywhere then. Karen's got another question.
If you
here.
win the consumer fraud case, could that possibly affect their case? I don't think it would directly affect their case, but our attorneys think that they might be dropping, or they might drop the case just because, like, what can you even get from a trespass case that happened 4 years ago? Not to mention, like, the value of the turkeys that we, quote unquote, stole was so minimal. So they might drop it, but I don't think it would directly affect that.
Yeah, what our lawyers have told us is that the trespassing conversion claim they're bringing against us is basically a way to intimidate us and scare people, because they originally named all these other people, including 2 people who did nothing other than write a report.
Yeah.
They tried to sue Michael and Leslie Goldberg simply for writing a report.
For journalism,
which
is just great.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, this is what the industry does. They attack people for speech activity. And that's what happens when you have unlimited funds. They can do whatever they want, and they don't have to worry about legal support because they can just throw more bodies and more fees at it. Well, we can't. But one of the great things for us is, our lawyers are taking this free of charge. They're not charging us anything. I mean, they're hoping to get a fee out of it.
Yeah, well,
ultimately.
we're paying for like a lot of the expenses, which just come the photocopying, that kind of stuff.
And the experts. So it's been over $10,000, I think now, cumulatively, probably tens of thousands. I'd have to go and look at the exact budget. But still, compared to the attorney fees on the other side, which I think are probably millions of dollars, I mean, there's a massive cost advantage for us because we have 2 lawyers who just believe in the cause.
Yeah, Gretchen and Sonia are really, really incredible.
Yeah, they're both vegan. They're both animal rights attorneys. They're doing this not to make money.
Ooh, and Sonia is speaking on a panel at the Animal Liberation California Convergence.
She's an amazing person, and you should definitely come to ALCC and hear about that. Max Corwin is saying, I saw an article about the fur trap bans in California. Yeah, that is a separate bill that actually has also, I think, been passed through the Appropriations Committee.
It got signed by the
It got signed by the governor already. Okay, great.
I'm pretty sure, which is really good news because that means that I think Governor Newsom
is going to be supportive.
Will be supportive of the fur ban when that comes to him.
So Jackie is saying, not a court question, when you do live interviews, could you please check the volume on our end so we can hear you? Yeah, you're right. I'm working on that with our tech team. I'm sorry.
That's the first time anyone's ever said they can't hear you.
Yeah, we're working on the live stream tech stuff. Jake has already explored all these different microphones, and I know a lot of people complain about the Justin Marceau live stream, and I'm sorry that didn't go too well. I think my volume was reasonable. I know Justin's was really soft, and people were not enjoying that experience, but we do have the budget now where we can pay for like better audio gear, thanks to all of you, frankly. So we don't have to continue to have these, ratty, very kind of 1990s style videos. Like we can do stuff that feels like it's in the 2000s at least, and hopefully the 2010s.
So yeah, we're going to be fixing that, Jackie, and you should see some improvements in the next few weeks and months. Dave Engel saying, do you have a guesstimate for when the Utah case ALC Western Convergence will be? We actually don't know, and it's possible the trial gets kicked back. One update I want to give everyone is I actually don't have any lawyers in Utah right now. I hate to admit this, but the other side already knows anyways, because my lawyers technically withdraw. But one of the reasons I need to start focusing on trial stuff is our lawyers in Utah withdrew, and to be honest, part of the reason was they just weren't comfortable with how much we were putting ourselves out there. They were scared of all the protests, the rescues we're doing. My lawyers were freaking out every time I was getting arrested or involved in another investigation. And I think after the New York Times piece this month, where, I was quoted, this is an investigation that happened a long time ago, but I think that was kind of the final straw for my lawyers in Utah. Yeah. And he read that piece, and I think he had a heart attack and said, I can't do this anymore. You keep doing this work, and I'm trying to keep you out of prison, and I can't. So we lost our Utah attorneys. They're great lawyers. Most of them didn't charge us a dime. So they said they didn't even ask us for a fee. They said, don't pay me, but I can't do this case. So, but the great thing is I actually had a call with another one of Utah's best attorneys, a guy by the name of Jim Bradshaw yesterday. I think he's interested in the case. So, and he's being educated about factory farms as well.
Yeah, I think on September 23rd, there's like a telephone conference where they will discuss what's going forward. And originally the trial was in November and December for the Utah cases, but
yeah,
we're hoping they get pushed back also. But so it's hard to know, like, I don't think we're going to have a big conference like we did, just because where these trials are is not really in Salt Lake City, which is a really awesome place to go. They're in, what is it called?
Beaver County,
Utah. Not Beaver, like Justin Bieber, as Tanya thought it was. But yeah, it's not that much going on, but we're going to be trying to get at least, a couple buses to Salt Lake City from the Bay when the trial happens.
Yeah, just to give you a sense of Beaver County. Beaver County is a county. The sheriff, yeah.
Did you see the tweet?
Yeah. Just insulting Elizabeth Warren for advocating for people who are shot by the police and I think he called her a scumbag.
He called her some really derogatory term
on Twitter.
Yeah.
So this is the sort of guy we're going to be going against in Beaver County. But Beaver County is also a county, I believe, pigs outnumber human beings in that county 200 to 1.
Yeah.
It's something like 202,000 pigs because there's, around 1.2 million, I guess 600,000 pigs at any point in time. There are only 500,000 human beings in that county. 5,000 human beings in that entire county.
Yeah.
And they're all affiliated with the industry. So it's going to be an interesting place, to say the least, to have a trial. But regardless of what happens, just like with the civil case, I kind of feel like it's heads we win, tails you lose. Because if we win the case, this is almost the end of factory farming and then the end of animal agriculture.
Diesel, or?
All these cases.
Oh, okay.
I think both of these cases are heads we win, tails we lose. Because if we win these cases, we have a precedent now where we could just go and investigate and rescue animals. But if we lose these cases, the amount of media attention and sympathies this will engender in the public, we have a documentary crew following us. This is going to be I almost kind of hope we don't win, because it's going to make for a bad and less dramatic ending for the documentary. If it's like, oh, now he goes home and has a party, it's like, oh.
Well, it depends. These are conversations that we've had where it's like, I was like, 3 months would be a great person. Yeah. I think the best case scenario was a short jail.
Prison. Yeah.
We don't want to lose you for 10 years, but honestly, wouldn't mind for 6 months.
Yeah.
That would be great.
It'll be a nice break for me. One of the things I talked to this guy, he's worked in the anti-war movement for decades. And he told me in the anti-war movement and the Catholic left, when people need a break, they go to jail. Yeah. And he said, and I was like, okay.
Those, the
makes a lot of sense. Yeah, the swords, the plowshares. Yeah. Okay, so we're getting almost an hour, so we'll try and get these last quick questions.
Law, quickly, so Rose's Law. Rocio, are you in, I believe you're in Arizona. I can't quite remember, so I hope that's right. I think that Derek Grell might be organizing something. If you want to organize something in your area for Rose's Law, which, the elevator pitch of that is actions happening all around the world at the end of this month or beginning of October to get the idea of an animal bill of rights out into the world. Not that we're expecting that's going to pass next year or anything, but we want people to start thinking about this. And one of the planks of that is the right to rescue, which is the first step towards giving animals personhood. So if you want to organize an action in your area, you can just email roseslaw@directactioneverywhere.com and we'll get that sorted. But if there isn't, there's going to be one in San Diego and there's also going to be one here at the Animal Liberation California Convergence. You can come to this. It's going to be, on not the first 2 days of the conference. I can't exactly remember the date. And then you can, like, I know San Diego's going to come up and then go home and do theirs.
Yeah.
So Rose's Law at directactionever.com.
Debbie's asking, what is the chance of mainstream media covering the lawsuit? Very good. All these lawsuits and prosecutions are very media friendly, and this is just something that is literally news. It is news. It's new. It's of public interest, and it's one of the reasons I think D-Still and these farm corporations are very scared about all these lawsuits.
Well, and I think it helps a lot that the investigation itself got really good coverage, and then so it's like a follow-up. The Washington Post should write about this. You already wrote about it when it came out. What happened to DXC New York City? Yeah, I talked a little bit to Sabina and Danielle, who are two of the organizers in New York. I think they're honestly burnt out a little bit from organizing, which happens a lot. That we can sustain ourselves a lot in the Bay Area is because we have a lot of people. Also, we have the community center, which is really awesome. So thank you so much for supporting us to make this happen. But yeah, I mean, if you want to organize DXC New York, make it happen. Just email us.
I mean, one of the things we always try to emphasize with our organizers is stepping back to take some time for yourself is really important. I mean, as of me, I need to step back and handle some of my personal matters are also political matters, but Sabina's got a kid. I know she's going through some personal stuff. I don't know if you know, but she's got a sickness in the family. So that means sometimes the leaders in a chapter just need to take some personal time. And we are 100% supportive of that because this is a marathon and not a sprint. And so when one of our organizers says, hey, I need to take a little break, we tell them, do it. Yeah. Do it, and we'll welcome you with open arms whenever you want to come back.
And the vast majority of all the people around the world, they're not full-time activists.
Yeah.
Sabina is a nurse practitioner. I actually don't know what Danielle does, but
but she's got a full-time job
it's
too.
really hard. I was an organizer in Vancouver before I moved here, also doing a full-time job. Man, it's tough. Yeah.
Okay, last question on here is Glenn covering the trial. We are pitching him on all these trials, and I pitched him a couple months ago. I'm actually going to send him another email in the next couple days. But many of you probably know Glenn's going through some personal issues of his own right now.
Brazil's a little bit of an intense place at the moment.
Yeah, he has to be protected by, I think, like a dozen plus armed guards at all times because the leader of Brazil, the ultra right-wing anti-animal Bolsonaro, is basically threatening his life and saying, I want to put this guy in prison. So Glenn has not even had time to do journalism, frankly, because he's so worried about his kids and his family. And
he runs a dog sanctuary.
Yeah. But I know Glenn has expressed interest in these lawsuits and cases in the past, and I expect once he gets some breathing room from this investigation he did of corruption in Brazil, which has led to threats against his life, he's going to be interested in writing about us again. So
I think Nico Stubler? I'm not sure who that is, but I know one Nico. Looks like maybe you can do hey Nico, maybe you have a new DXC New York. If you want Nico and Jean, email me and I am happy to connect you with the old DXC or people on hiatus, and maybe they can give you an update on what's going on. But.
Okay, and I think that's all the questions. I just want to express a lot of appreciation to everyone again for all the support, and also just a lot of appreciation for Almira for taking on this enormous responsibility. But I can't really imagine anyone who's better equipped for this. And Almira has the deep institutional knowledge and expertise in DXC. She's got the organizing ability. She has the strategic vision. She's going to make a lot of changes. On future memory calls, I'm sure she's going to share with you some of the big changes she'll be making in DXC to make it better. But we would not be able to do this without your support. And I know Almira really just, we're always talking about how amazing it is. And the fact that people give us anything at all, it's such a weird thing that people are so supportive of the work we're doing that they're literally paying the bills for our investigations, for our rescues, for the lights to stand at the Animal Rights Center, for the Zoom account. There's so many things that go into building a beautiful, powerful movement, all of which depend on our members. And we're just so appreciative and grateful to all of you for making all this happen. Because, I always say this, but it's totally true that especially me, but Almira to a certain extent too, we get lots of public recognition. People see our faces, they watch our live streams, they see us at conferences, and we get acknowledgement and support. But for those of you who are just behind the scenes, serving as the engine for this movement, you got to kind of have to suffer in peace and quiet and anonymity. And it's hard to be an animal rights activist. It's hard to support this movement in a time
where it often feels like we're still being marginalized. But I'll tell you now that the change is on the horizon. We've got a great strategy, and there's no better time to be an animal rights activist and animal rights supporter than right now. With the fur ban, right to rescue legislation, even the New York Times article a couple days ago showing a nationwide trend. I'm going to live stream about this. I don't know if you saw this article, but across the nation, there's been a dramatic drop in kill rates in shelters. And everyone's trying to figure out what the hell happened. But something happened last 10 years, and it's not just one place. It's happened in one place every now and then. But across the nation, you're seeing drops from like 70% kill rates to 10, 5, and even less kill rates. So something is changing in our culture when it comes to animals, and you are driving that change. We are driving that change together. So thank you all very much, and we'll see you next time. As always, I think Sahara will be sending a recording of this out in an email. And if you have any follow-up questions, please send an email to us, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have about anything you heard today.
This was awesome. I was honestly a little nervous, but and it's really cool to see some of the people I know, some of the people I don't, and yeah, there's a lot of people. Oh, there, now I can see that it is the Nico.
It is Nico. It is Nico. What's up, Nico? Nico was in a jail cell with me in Sonoma County.
That's a good place to be.
You are an amazing guy, and it was so much fun being in a jail cell with you a few months ago.
So
hope things are well in New York.
Well, I will talk to you all later.
Okay, and yeah, I may not be on all the calls in the future.
Maybe I could be in prison. I might do the next one with Priya, maybe.
Yeah, so Almira might be the next one, but it was great hanging out with all of you. Again, this isn't goodbye. And even if it is, it's just goodbye for a short period of time.
Mentor, yeah. Where we connected
so, but it's going to be it's more like hello to a different sort of context. And again, thanks to all you for your support, and we'll see you sometime soon.
Oh, see you at ALC.
Thank you, Wayne.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, Matt Gabisi, Max. Paula.
Hugs to you, Wayne.
Hey, Karen. There's Yuki. No. Yuki, are you moving to Berkeley or what?
No, I think Yuki.
I keep waiting. Oh, you moved to Japan?
Right? I don't know. The last I saw. Very far.
It's so great to see you, Chris. Wherever your journeys travel, thank you. I hope it's awesome to see the growing support for animal rights.